Hello friends, Lee here from TableTop Bong. In this video, I'm going to take you through something different than I've spoken to you about before. Today we're going to talk about my near-death experience that happened 1 month and 1 day ago. So I'm going to walk you through the entire experience, or at least as much as I can tell you about it. The reason I'm doing this is for, I guess, a twofold reason, to be completely honest. One, this is going to help me in my healing to talk about this and to let some of this out into the world. And two, I know a lot of people are spending time researching near-death experience and trying to understand it, and there's a very, very good reason that people are so intrigued by this particular topic. So since I've experienced this, I thought I would at least put as much as I can share with you guys out into the world, so that whoever needs this information and finds this information, maybe you were supposed to, maybe there's something in this for you. So, near-death experience, 1 month and 1 day ago. I think the way I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened is I'm going to start with what was happening in the physical world. And we're going to go through what that experience looked like. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you what I was experiencing on the inside while those things were happening. But I'll just lay out sort of the timeline and chronology of what was happening to my physical body before we get into talking too much about what was happening, either emotionally, spiritually, however you want to look at that. So let's start with shortly before my near-death experience. It was an evening not unlike many other evenings. It wasn't long after I finished supper, and I started to feel a bit unwell. And I said to my partner, I don't feel that great. Which normally isn't like me. I normally feel pretty good all of the time. It's just not like me to not feel well. Every now and then, I guess everybody feels a little bit under the weather, but it did shock me a little bit, and I, made mention of it and said, I'm not feeling that great. And then that feeling progressed, and it progressed into a feeling of twofold, really. Anxiety, for sure. A big, big wave of anxiety went through my body, and the feeling of being nauseous, wanting to throw up. That really hit me. So I went into the bathroom, unsure if I was going to throw up or not, and I waited in there a few minutes. And the wave of nausea passed, but the anxiety did not. It was really, really, amplified, a 10 out of 10 anxiety that just came into my body. It felt like almost out of nowhere. So I decided what I was going to do was just go into the other room and just lay down. Just catch my breath. Normally, if I get thrown off by something, I could just take a couple of minutes and center and ground myself in a moment and, align my energy and my mind with whatever's in front of me and carry on. So I just thought that's exactly what I was going to do. But I continued to feel not very well. Lucky for me, my partner was home, and she came and sat beside me where I was laying down and just asked me, are you okay? Those kind of things. The thing, your partner would ask you when you're not feeling well. And I said to her, yeah, I don't feel that great. I said, but here's what I need you to know. And I don't know exactly where this came from at this moment. But I said to her, something is going to happen. I'm going to release something from my body, and I know that this is going to happen. And I said to her, this may look scary. This may be scary. But in the end, I know I'm going to be okay. And without going into a great explanation about what I did next, I'll just explain it, and we'll cover this as I go through what was happening. But at this time, I had enough recognition that something was off that I put myself into a circle of white light, like I do when I meditate, or, these are Reiki symbols here on my skin. So I do spiritual work, and I know to protect myself psychically or spiritually when I'm, going into a healing space or a trance state or something like that. So I did that. I put myself and my partner into a circle of white light for protection. And then I tried to just simply calm myself. And I put my hand on my partner's leg, and I was rubbing her leg and telling her it was all going to be okay and just to hang in there with me, and I appreciate you being here with me. And then something started to change. My legs and my arms began to shake. I mean, shaking, like trembling. And then my body began to follow. My entire body, every part of me began to shake and tremble. And I began making noises. The way it was explained to me from my partner was that it sounded like an animal that had been stabbed. And as time progressed and my body trembled more and more, I continued to amp up and get louder and louder with the sounds that were coming out of my body. My partner said it was extremely disturbing to hear these sounds and how loud they were, how loud I had gotten making these sounds. And of course, scaring my partner for sure. Because what do you do with this, right? I mean, think about it. What would you do with that situation? So I continued to tremble and make these noises, and then I completely stopped and I looked up into the corner of the room and I said 3 times, "You're okay. You're okay. You're okay." And then I said, "You're free." And at that moment, my heart stopped, and for lack of any better way of saying it, I died. The moment I said, "You're free," everything just stopped. Okay, so we're at that point. So let me backtrack a little bit and explain to you what was happening for me on the inside while all of this was going on the outside. And then I'll take you through what happened after my heart stopped beating. But let's get caught up to that point from a spiritual or emotional perspective. I don't know why or how I knew to put myself in that circle of white light the way I did, but I just knew I had to. I've done a lot of Reiki work, a lot of energy work. I've dedicated the last 20 plus years to studying and learning about the unconscious mind, about our connections, about, the conscious, the superconscious. There's all kinds of layers of consciousness. And I've taken the time to understand them and to understand vibration of a human being, vibration of spirit, and that there's a space between the two that you can actually go to and communicate, and I've learned how to do that. So I really, I've dedicated myself to being a student of understanding these types of things. So when I had this feeling coming over me, which made no sense to me, I knew that I needed, to protect myself and my partner psychically. And I also knew something big was coming. Then what happened next was I took a trip. The best way I can describe it is straight into hell. There was no feelings of being elated and lightness and angels. That's not what happened for me at this point in time. My experience went the other way. It felt like I was being sucked downward through a vortex of demons and negative energy. I could see them swirling around me. And the demons that I could see, they were almost like you would imagine to be ghost-like, not completely solid. There's a transparency and an understanding that they can do things to you, they can affect you, but if you try to affect them, you can't. If you take the scariest scene you could conjure in your mind of demons swirling around you, and their very goal is to scare the life out of you, I think you can start to get an idea of what I was seeing, of what I was experiencing. But the entire time I was holding a tether, and that was the tether to life, the tether to take me back up. But I knew I had to go into hell to free a part of myself that had been stuck, to free a part of myself that needed to be freed, needed to be released. And this part of myself, interestingly enough, it's a part of myself that from the time I was 3 years old, I could remember this particular part of myself, being able to separate it from myself, being able to externalize and put that part of myself up in that corner. I could also go with that part of myself into the corner and completely leave my physical body. I learned this at a very, very young age. I'm sure this was something that has been taught to me in previous lives and used in previous lives, because it was such second nature for me to have this part of myself that could absolutely detach from the rest of me and externalize, and I could see it, sense it, feel it outside of me up in the corner, and that part of me always went up into the corner. But I was being called at this time to free that part of myself. So I had to travel into hell to do that. And I knew that at some point I was going to travel far enough into hell, I was going to find that part of myself. And when I did, I needed to push it outside of the vortex of demons and anger and negativity and pain that envelops you, surrounds you the entire time you're there. And when I did locate that part of myself, I had to let go of the tether that kept me connected to life, so that I could grab with both hands that part of myself and release it from the vortex. And when I did that, my heart stopped. Right after I said the final sentence to that part of myself, "You're free," my heart stopped, because I didn't have the tether. I didn't know how to get back. You want to talk about scary. Okay, so now we're at this point of what's been happening inside me. So let's go back outside for a minute now, and let's talk about the physical world. And let me catch you up on what happens next. So in the physical world, lucky me, my partner was an ER nurse for 20 plus years. She knew exactly what to do to begin CPR and to call 911, get paramedics moving, get the whole, emergency services working on me. And she kept me with, doing chest compressions, full CPR program. She kept me viable and forcing air into me. Well, the paramedics and those kind of people all came to help. And then they took me to the closest hospital, which was 5 minutes away, and then transferred me to another hospital about an hour away where they could actually do the proper work on me. Outside of me, what's happening is I'm transferred, and as I'm being transferred, I still can't get the tether. I'm not finding the tether to come back. So they would do CPR, get my pulse, and then it would go into a strange rhythm and they would have to defibrillate me. And then my heart would stop. And it would start all over again. This happened, this process, in an hour travel. It happened, 15 to 20 times. It was quite a number of times that they would get my pulse back. And then I would go into a strange arrhythmia. And then they would have to defibrillate again to try and, bring that to a normal beat. And then my heart would stop. So this went on for quite a period of time. During that travel, they had me counted for downtime of about 28 minutes in total that I had no heartbeat. That led them to believe that if they could, in fact, revive me at any point, I would likely have brain damage, and I likely was not going to come back. So they took me, and they put a balloon pump in. They put a stent in my heart. They did all kinds of magical medical things. They did all kinds of life-saving measures. They held me unconscious for 2.5 to 3 days because they wanted absolutely no stress on my heart. They went as far as to drop my entire body temperature to try and find a place between lowering my body temperature as low as it could go without making me shiver, so they could hold me in that place to make my heart beat even slower, to try and give me a chance to fight my way back. So in that process, I was really, literally between the worlds, between life and death. I spent a fair bit of time there. I don't have total recall of all of it because of, once they started the full drug routine and the propofol and all those magical drugs that I'm grateful for today because I'm here. It's pretty incredible, really, when you think about it, but they do, release a lot of your conscious memory. So let me tell you now what happens from here on the inside. So you have a rough idea of what's going on the outside now. They're really working hard to just have zero stress on my body at all, making sure there's no stress on my heart whatsoever, because they're afraid unless they do these life-saving measures, there's no way I'm going to be able to come back. And they're really not sure if I come back who I'm going to be, if I'm even going to be, if I'm going to have any intelligence left, or if I might be in a vegetative state. There was really no way to know with the amount of downtime that they counted me for during that ambulance ride. So on the inside of me then, after I had let go of the tether and pushed that part of myself out, I was truly searching in the vortex of demons, scared for my life, knowing it was slipping away, feeling that it was getting further and further, and these demons, they weren't touching me, but the energy was sucking me away from life, and I could feel that they were winning, and I could feel that I was getting closer and closer to not being able to return. I was truly clawing and fighting for every ounce of life I could come up with, but understanding I was losing the battle. I knew I was honestly a minute, seconds away from losing this battle. And there was a flash. Pure white light. Flash. Completely stopped everything and popped me right out. Took me right out and put me into a space of safety. Then I was ready to come back. My physical body wasn't quite ready, but I was back. I was back in myself. My soul was back in my body. I feel so blessed and lucky that flash of white light, that divine intervention came and pulled me from the pits of hell after I'd released that part of myself and brought me back. It was really quite an experience. It's something that I know I'm never going to forget. It's a little bit nerve-rattling when you see that kind of imagery. I mean, just imagine the scariest thing that you could conjure in your mind, and I promise you, this was at least that bad. I'm grateful that I took that journey, and I'm grateful for the divine intervention that allowed me the opportunity to come back and to talk about this. It's a really important thing to understand. There's many, many elements to a near-death experience, and until you've had one, you can assume certain things, but I'm here to tell you it's not. What you think you would feel is not at all what happens. Would it make sense to you if I tell you that after my near-death experience, I went through a period of euphoria, and then I went through a period of guilt, extreme guilt, of feeling horrible for what had happened to everybody around me who was with me on that journey. My partner, my son, they lived with the idea that they didn't know, number one, if they were going to be able to bring me back when they decided that my heart was strong enough to try and wake me, to start to turn some of the drugs down and see if I responded. And if I did respond, were the lights going to be on or off? That's a tremendous amount of guilt that, unless it's happened to you, you might not think that's happening, because as soon as I came back, everybody was just so happy for me to be back and that I was okay. The doctors called it a miracle and said they could not believe that I made it through that. This was 1 month and 1 day ago. There's a lot of mixed emotions that come out of, having a near-death experience. It also really, truly teaches you something about your own mortality in this lifetime. Puts into perspective for you how quickly it can end. It also put into perspective for me, I can't carry things that don't feel good in my body anymore. You have to let them go. It's important to do that. At some point, there was a part of me that I continued to carry, that I should have done something with, that I didn't do anything with. That's a lesson to me. You may wonder, and I know I certainly did, I questioned why. Why on earth would this happen to me? Not the near-death experience. That wasn't what I was questioning at all. But the question was, why did I have to go to hell on that journey? I've heard of people having near-death experiences where they don't want to come back because they're in such a peaceful and beautiful state. And I thought, why me? Why did I have to go through this journey into hell? Why didn't I get that other experience? I asked my guides. I work with a series of spirit guides that make up a particular council that helps me gain understanding about things where I need to expand and learn and grow. I can go into meditation and I can gain from their wisdom. So I had to ask why. Why did I have this journey? And it was explained very simply and directly to me. I had this journey because this is the first lifetime that I had been strong enough and had grown into enough understanding that I could take the journey into hell and come back and live. This is the first lifetime where I could absolutely do it. And I had an instinctual knowing when the journey began enough to tell my partner that no matter how scary it looks, I'm going to be okay in the end. And I knew instinctively to put myself in that circle of white light. So then I took the journey and I was successful. That's why I could do this journey. And now I look at it not from a place of why did this happen to me, but from a place of pure gratitude that I could finally free that part of me that was so damaged and so stuck in hell. That part was always tethered to me. But now it's free, and I'm free of it. So from that perspective, it made me feel very proud that I had done the work required to be able to free that part of myself, and it's in this lifetime that I did it, and I could come back and I could tell the story. But please realize, for anybody at all who goes through this, there are so many feelings that might not make sense afterwards. And whatever they are, it's okay. Honor them. They're for you for a reason, even if you don't understand them. And if you're supporting somebody who's been through a near-death experience, don't expect anything of them. Just be there. If they want to talk, listen. If they don't want to talk, just share space with them. Let them feel safe. There's a period of time where you really need that. And if you get it, like I did, you're lucky and you realize how blessed your experience really is. So that, my friends, is 1 month and 1 day ago. I was released after about 10, 12 days of being in the hospital, directly from the cardiac care unit. Released, because my healing has been so remarkably quick. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm pretty close. I feel as though there's going to be a time not that far down the road where I'm going to be better and healthier and stronger than I was before this happened. And I don't think it's that far away. If you have any questions about what's happened, please feel free to hit me up in the comments. You know, if you're not subscribed to my channel, let me tell you, I'm a pretty open person, and I'm willing to answer whatever questions you might have, and I'm very active in the comments. It's really important to me to be engaged in the community that's forming around me. I feel very grateful for the opportunity to be doing this. And I'm here to support anybody who needs support, like I needed support. I'll answer your questions. It's all good with me. Thank you for sharing what happened. Thank you for helping the healing that I'm going through on this journey, talking about this, making this video. It's very healing for me. I'm not necessarily the person who speaks about deep personal stuff on this kind of a level. Not about myself. I know a lot of stuff about energy, and I like to talk about that, and you can see some of my videos where I do that, but this is really as vulnerable as I think a person can be. So this has been very healing, and I thank you for being part of that with me. Until next time, I think I'm going to tune off now and say goodnight. Take care.